Some have claimed to have witnessed the ghost of Stratton.
There have been many people who have claimed to witness a celebrity ghost in Hollywood, and Dorothy Stratten is no exception. Some have reported seeing Stratton's ghost at the former Playboy building located on Sunset Boulevard in Los Angeles. Others have claimed to see a pale mist floating near her grave. Stratton is buried at the Westwood Village Memorial Park Cemetery in Los Angeles,
After Stratton's death, Bogdanovich courted her younger sister and eventually married her.
Bogdanovich had a difficult time getting over Stratton's death. He stopped making movies and devoted his time to writing The Killing of the Unicorn, Dorothy Stratten, 1960-1980. While writing the book, Bogdanovich became close to Stratton's family, including her 12-year-old sister, Louise. He paid for Louise to be enrolled in a private school and for modeling classes. He took her on grand vacations to Paris, and once she graduated from high school, he bought her a brand new Trans Am. Bogdanovich secretly married Louise once she turned 20. Not many were surprised by the union, despite the fact Louise was a minor when the two met. Bogdanovich and Louise were married for 12 years before Louise publicly announced she was divorcing Bogdanovich. He learned of her intent to divorce with the rest of the world through news and media outlets.
Hugh Hefner did everything in his power to make sure Stratton's murder wasn't tied to the Playboy culture.
In November 1980, Hugh Hefner agreed to be interviewed for Village Voice about Stratton. Initially, it appeared Hefner agreed to the interview to show respect for Stratton. In reality, he didn't want Stratton's death to tarnish the Playboy legacy. During the interview, Hefner said he wanted to speak about Stratton because there is still a great tendency for this thing to fall into the classic cliché of small-town girl comes to Playboy, comes to Hollywood, life in the fast lane, and that was somehow related to her death. And that is not what really happened. A very sick guy saw his meal ticket and his connection to power, whatever, slipping away. And it was that made him kill her. Aside from the Village Voice interview and a statement released by Playboy regarding her death, Hefner mourned her death in silence. He considered her a part of the Playboy family. He believed she had the potential to be the biggest star who got her start at the magazine. Hefner passed away on September 27, 2017. He was buried about 1,000 feet from Stratton at L.'s Westwood Village Memorial Park.
Stratton quickly shot to stardom after moving to Hollywood.
Shortly after moving to Los Angeles, Stratton became Playboy's Miss August 1979 and also began working as a bunny at the Playboy Club. While quickly becoming a success in the Playboy world, Stratton also started branching out and applying for acting jobs for various television shows. The crossover proved successful, and in 1979, she starred in 2 television series, Buck Rogers in the 25th Century and Fantasy Island. She also starred in the feature-length drama Autumn Born. By 1980, Stratton's career had taken off. She was Playboy's Playmate of the Year and played the title role as herself in the sci-fi parody Galaxina. Her next project was her first and only major studio film, They All Laughed, where she starred alongside Audrey Hepburn and John Ritter. While filming, Stratton and the director, Peter Bogdanovich, fell in love. Snider wouldn't have any of it. By the time the film was released in 1981, Stratton was already dead.
Stratton fell in love with Peter Bogdanovich, and Snider hired a P to follow her.
By the time Stratton was 18, she had already lived quite a life. She was featured in Playboy and beginning her acting career. While working on the film They All Laughed, the team met the 40-year-old director of the movie, Peter Bogdanovich, and the two immediately began a love affair. By the time filming was wrapping up, the two had plans to marry. However, Stratton was still married to Snider, albeit unhappily. Ever the possessive and controlling husband, Snider hired a private detective to follow Stratton around. The detective reported back to Snider that Stratton was having an affair with Bogdanovich.
Snider married Stratton and then controlled her money and told her who to sleep with.
With her Playboy career looking promising, Stratton decided to move to Los Angeles in August 1978. Snider followed a few months later, and the two moved in together. In June 1979, Stratton and Snider got married. Snider became her manager as well. Many who were in contact with the newlyweds thought Snider was controlling and not necessarily looking out for Stratton's best interests. Snider took it upon himself to manage all of Stratton's money. He also told her who to sleep with to become successful, including Hugh Hefner.
Snider convinced Stratton to send nudes to Playboy, and her mother had to sign minor release forms.
Dorothy Stratten was born Dorothy Hoop Stratten on February 28, 1960, in Vancouver, BC, Canada. Stratton's father left her mother when she was very young, and the mother and daughter had a string of financial hardships. In 1977, 17-year-old Stratton was working at the local Dairy Queen when 26-year-old pimp Paul Snider walked in. Snider saw star quality in Stratton and is said to have told a friend, "That girl could make me a lot of money." Snider aggressively courted Stratton. He took her on dates in his flashy Corvette and bought her lavish gifts. He took her on clothing and jewelry shopping sprees and never missed an opportunity to tell her how beautiful she was. To Stratton, who had grown up poor and often went without even basic necessities, Snider was a dream come true. Once Snider had Stratton under his thumb, he convinced her to get professional nude photographs taken. He volunteered to submit the photos to Playboy, citing how great of a career move it would be for her. Stratton eventually agreed, but since she was still 17, her mother had to sign a release form in order to submit the nude photographs. The photos were sent to Playboy in 1978, and Stratton became a finalist for the 25th anniversary of the Great Playmate Hunt.
Her photos appeared in Playboy after she was killed.
Stratton appeared on the cover of Playboy in June 1980. Before her brutal murder, she was scheduled to appear in the upcoming October issue. Editors scrambled to pull her photos from the issue, but the magazine had already gone to print. She was featured post-mortem in a series devoted to girls from Canada. Stratton was also scheduled to appear on the cover of the 1981 Playmate calendar, as well as a Playboy Christmas ad alongside Hugh Hefner, but she was removed from both the calendar and advertisement.
Experts believe Snider violated Stratton's corpse before killing himself.
Police were able to determine Snider shot and killed Stratton before turning the gun on himself as a murder-suicide. Although no one knows exactly what occurred leading up to the deaths, it was clear Snider would rather be dead than allow Stratton to go on with her life without him. Investigators determined Snider had raped Stratton, shot her in the face, and then proceeded to have sex with her corpse. Experts on the Stratton case concluded Snider probably strapped Stratton's corpse to a homemade sex device which Snider was hoping to market and violated her body on the contraption. He then tossed her off of the machine and shot himself in the head.
Paul Snider shot Dorothy Stratten in the face when she asked for a divorce and then killed himself.
While filming, they all laughed. Dorothy Stratten fell in love with director Peter Bogdanovich. In June 1980, Stratten worked up the courage to tell her pimp husband, Paul Snider, she wanted a divorce. Snider already knew about the affair, but he was not willing to accept it. He agreed to meet with Stratton to discuss the divorce, but not before buying a gun first. A month later, on August 14, 1980, Stratton went to Snider's house around noon to discuss divorce proceedings. Snider had different plans. Stratton didn't show up to pick up her sister around 11 p.m. Her family began to worry. Meanwhile, Snider's roommate and owner of the house, Dr. Stephen Kushner, also began to worry. The couple had remained in Snider's locked bedroom all night. Eventually, Kushner broke down the door and found both Stratton and Snider dead from gunshot wounds. Stratton's nude corpse was on the floor covered in blood and ants, and most of her face was missing from the gunshot blast. Clumps of hair had been torn from her head. Snider, also nude, had a gunshot wound to the head, and one of his eyes was hanging out of the socket.
Hey guys, thank you so much for the support and likes and comments down below, and also thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to see you in the next video. Then take care, bye.